We are in the middle of a series called Aha, and the subtitle is Wisdom That Works. And we're walking through the book of Proverbs through the summer months, June and July. And we're going to finish up the summer months at the last Sunday of July, and I believe it's July 30th. We did this last year, we're going to do it again this year, and it's our outdoor baptisms. And so it's an unbelievable Sunday. If you've been baptized, it's just great to stick around. If you haven't been baptized, it's a great opportunity to do that because right out there in our courtyard by the little fireplace, we have 2 or 3 baptistries filled up. We have outdoor baptisms, and some people, they're planned, some people, they're spontaneous, some people get baptized in their Sunday clothes, but it's a really incredible time, a visible picture of life change here for our church, and we're all about seeing Jesus change lives. But this week, in our Aha series, we're springboarding off a little bit from last week, and so last week we were all in agreement that nobody wants to wake up and find themselves either divorced, bankrupt, addicted, fired from a job, lonely, or no purpose in life. Like nobody wakes up and goes, man, this is exactly the way I hope life would go. Everybody wants life to go right for them. And so everybody wants to find themselves on the right path. And we talked last week, the only way that right path is revealed for your marriage, finances, health, business, school, whatever, the only way that is revealed is by God, not by you, and certainly not by me. And so that's starting on the right path. And so, okay, God, He reveals this is the right path for our marriage, business, finances, health, our spiritual life. This is what we should do. But then here's the question we want to ask and wrestle with today, and it's this. How do you finish on the right path that you started? So how do you come to the end still on the right path that you started? How do you go 4 years of college finishing on the right path that you started 4 years earlier? How do you come to the end of your marriage till death do you part, and on that final day, you're more madly in love that day than the first day that you saw him or her? How do you come to the end of empty nesthood and you've raised kids and the last one leaves? How do you come to the end still on the right path? How do you come to the end of retirement or finishing your career still on that right path? How do you finish the end of your life, and when you exhale your last breath on this earth, how do you come to the end still on the right path? Because it's one thing to start, and we know this. It's easy to start. You know, we start things all the time. We'll start diets, we'll start saving, we'll start all these things. But it's another thing to actually see them through to completion, to finish on the right path. And all of us, we love and we admire those people who finish well. This morning, on my way to church, driving out of my neighborhood, coming up the entryway, and there's a little sidewalk there, and I drive past this elderly couple, and they're there walking very, very slowly, but they're walking hand in hand. And I thought to myself, this is what I want Brianna and I to be 30, 40, 50 years from now. I admire men and women that start great businesses and companies that lead with character and integrity and take care of their employees and their community and finish well. I admire college kids that start off on fire for Jesus their freshman year, finish 4 years later more on fire for Jesus than when they started. You and I, we admire people that finish well. Personally, I admire pastors that are in the ministry 30, 40, 50 years, and pastors that you would never see on TV, that you will never read their books, but they faithfully serve their local church and their communities, and at the end of 30, 40, 50 years, they finish well. No moral failures, no scandals, no financial issues, just these great individuals that faithfully finished the path that God had started them on. So how do we finish on the right path in whatever area of our life that we're walking down? If you got a Bible, I need you to go to Proverbs chapter 4, and it's an interesting little passage because King Solomon wrote the majority of Proverbs, and in this one section, he's talking to his child. And so if you've ever received a father-to-child talk, just imagine that, or if you're a father and you've ever given your child a talk, and it's not a disciplined talk, but it's just one of those talks where you just go, I want you to hear this, son or daughter. Like you can imagine, at least for me, whenever I want to get something to my kids, I get down on their levels, I just look them right in the eye. And I just go, I want you to know this. I want you to hear this so carefully. And you can imagine Solomon telling this to his child in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 20. He says, my child, pay attention to what I say and listen carefully to my words. And you can imagine him bending down. He goes, don't lose sight of them. Let them penetrate deep into your heart, for they bring life to those who find them and healing to their whole body. And I imagine he's there and he's just going, son or daughter, listen to what I'm about to tell you. What I'm about to tell you is so important. It will forever change your life. And then I imagine, as every parent does, takes a dramatic pause and waits and waits. And then he delivers the line in verse 23. He says, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Guard your heart, son or daughter. If you hear nothing else, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Or let me just put it a little bit less, cumbersome, and just write it down this way. Your heart, it determines the course of your life. You can almost hear him saying, guard it well. Your heart determines the course of your life. The path is laid out, is revealed by God, but your heart, that thing that makes you you, that thing that's at the center of your life, that thing that you ask Jesus into is what makes him the king, the center of your life. He goes, guard it well, because that is what determines the course of your life. Your heart is so valuable. You guard it, you protect it with everything that you've got. If you think about it, we guard things that we value. We guard things that we value. Now, we have 4 kids, age 9 down to 2, and so we don't have any things of value in our house. But if we did, we would guard them well. And so, we've gone over to people's houses that they're empty nesters and they have really nice things, and I just apologize. Like, listen, I'm just give you some cash now for whatever they about to break. But things of value you guard, right? You insure your house. You lock your valuables in a safe. You keep your money in a bank. Things of value that you guard. Just by a show of hands, how many of you have a case on your phone? Just by a show of hands, you're 400, 500, 600. Keep them up, okay? Put them down. How many of you have a case on your phone because at some point in your life you have dropped or broken your phone? Just by a show of hands, keep them up. Okay, very good, put them down. And then how many of that, when you dropped it, you actually dropped it into a toilet? Just by a show of hands? Gross. Man, don't just lie on that question. God. I don't want to know that. Right? Things that you value, you guard. He goes, your heart, son or daughter. He goes, it's what determines the course of your life. Make sure you guard it. And the little word guard means to protect. It means to protect. I think all too often we think, well, I'm going to guard something, I'm going to restrict it. And he goes, no. It's to protect your heart and the path that you're walking down. And the best way you can think about it is if you think about a road or a path, the thing on the sides are called guardrails. And guardrails, they're meant for protection of the cars, not for restriction. So the guardrails are running this way to keep you from going to the left or the right. They're not in front of you to where you have to dodge. Right? They're on the side to protect you from going over the side to the left or to the right. He goes, you should place guardrails, guards, protections around your heart, boundaries around your heart. And it's not meant to restrict, it is meant to protect. And I'll give you an illustration that you will never, ever forget when it comes to guardrails around your life for protection, not for restriction. I'm guessing you've all been down to a little city south of us called Atlanta. Okay, the little city south of us, a few people down there. In Atlanta, there are these things called flyovers or highways. Now here we've got some bridges, but you go down to the big city, they've got flyovers. You go I-85, 285, it's like just crazy. Now you've gone over those, I've gone over those, and we go over these bridges, these overpasses. They're 30, 40, 50, 60, maybe 70 feet up in the air. And you have driven over, and I've driven over, and we've followed people flying over these overpasses, 50, 60 feet in the air, and they're driving 60 miles an hour. You've seen this. I mean, they're going over it. And the only reason they do that and the only reason you do that is because of those guardrails on the side. Now, just imagine if Atlanta decided to take all the guardrails off those overpasses, right? And you still had to get to work. You would Fred Flintstone your car over that thing. I mean, you would just ease a mile an hour. I mean, you would freak out. But what's interesting is nothing has changed. Still the same width, still the same depth, still the same steel and structure. But what has changed is the guardrails would be taken off. But with the guardrails there, the protection, it allows you to fly in comfort and going, well, I'm guarded and I'm protected. Now, just by a show of hands, and Brianna and I have talked about this, and this freaks me out, but have you ever driven across one of those big overpasses and you see the concrete barriers there? How many of you have ever seen a tire mark on one of those, just by a show of hands? You got to know that that person most definitely changed their pants after that commute. You see it, but they hit it and kept going. Why? Because there were guards in place. And that's what Solomon is driving home to his son or daughter. Going, listen, the only way you're going to finish on the right path is by placing guards around your heart. Not guards that are meant to restrict, but guards that are meant to protect. And then we're going to go down through some verses. And I'm just going to ask you some questions just about your own life and your own journey and really the guards that you should place around your heart. It continues on in verse 24. He says, avoid all perverse talk, stay away from corrupt speech. Now, you can circle that and put a mark around it. We're going to do a whole message on that next week, just on the weight of your words. And so you can just say, next week, I'll be here. Verse 25. But he says, look straight ahead. Fix your eyes on what lies before you. Mark out a straight path for your feet. Stay on the safe path. Don't get sidetracked. Keep your feet from following evil. Go back to verse 25. He says, look straight ahead. Fix your eyes on what lies before you. And so here's the question when it comes to your path and your journey. The simple question is this, is where do you want to end up? Where do you want to end up? He's saying, look straight ahead and fix your eyes on what lies before you. In other words, focus on where you're going, son or daughter. So when it comes to your marriage, where do you want to end up? When it comes to your business, where do you want to end up? When it comes to your high school career, college career, your career journey, where do you want to end up? Because how are you going to know if you're on the right path or not if you don't know the place that you want to end up at? How are you going to come to the end of your life, your career, your marriage, or whatever? You look at your finances and going, this is exactly the right path if you didn't know where you wanted to end up in the first place. Do you remember the old movie Alice in Wonderland? And do you remember that scene where Alice is there and she's at the crossroads and there's all these paths? Do you remember this? And there's the little Cheshire cat up in the tree. And she's there and she's looking around and she goes, how do I know which path to take? Do you remember this? No? Yeah, and the cat, you remember what the cat says? Oh, where do you want to go? And she goes, I don't know. And he goes, well, any path will get you there. Now you're going to go home and watch that movie this afternoon. You're going to go, that's in Proverbs. But Solomon's going, focus on what lies ahead. Guard your focus. Because if you don't know where you want to wind up, you create this idea of going, this is the path that God has for me. And God in Solomon's going, yes, but focus on where you are headed. Focus on the future, the way you want your marriage, the way you want your family to look. Because if you don't know where you're going, how do you know that you're there when it comes to the end? Guard your focus. And it's so easy to go, well, just come what may. Whatever happens in life and in business, and I'm just a free spirit, and so whatever happens, happens. And you spin in circles, and you spin in circles, and you're not quite sure if it's the right path or the wrong path, but it is a path. And so now it's 20 years later, 30 years later, 40 years later, and you wake up scratching your head going, where am I? How did I get here? And Solomon goes, you look straight ahead. And so the simple question that you must ask and answer only for yourself is, where do you want to end up? Where do you want to end up? And it is an unbelievable question to sit down and process together with your spouse, with your kids, with your family, with your business partners. with your friends, just going, where do we want to end up? Go down to the second verse. Look at verse 26. Verse 26, after he says, look straight ahead, he goes, now, mark out a straight path for your feet. Stay on the safe path. Mark out a straight path for your feet. Stay on the safe path. So once you understand where do you want to end up, then the second question flows from that, going, what are the steps to get you there? What are the steps to get you? Okay, I know where I want to go. I know what type of marriage I want to have when I'm 40, 50 years down the road. I know what type of business. I know how I want my college career to go. I know where I want to go. Then he goes, great. Now mark out that path. What are the steps to get you there? And maybe it's steps of forgiveness or patience or perseverance or discipline or saying yes to the right things and no to the wrong things. Maybe it's doing the small things really, really well, but it is the steps in the process to get you there to the final result. And all too often, we live in a microwave community. We know where we want to go. We know what we want to look at. Now, let me just get there as quick as we possibly can. And someone goes, well, there is a process. There's some steps in place. You know, one fancy dinner does not make a great marriage. One business deal does not make a great company. One act of giving does not make a generous person. One grade does not make an awesome college career. It's the daily things of doing the right things the right way every single time. Not just a one and done one. Well, we went out for a fancy date. Why isn't our marriage awesome? Well, I made a great business deal. Why can't my business be fantastic? He goes, no, you mark out the straight path and you begin to walk on that path. You begin to take the steps in order to accomplish the path that you want to end up on. Now, for me personally, this is just Chris. This is hard for me. Hard. Because I'm of the mind frame of going, that's where I want to wind up. Let me just get there as fast as I possibly can. I'll just skip a few steps and I'll just get there. I'm the type of person that when I was 21, 22 years old, I had braces. I had those Invisalign things, and Invisalign, there are these little plastic things that you switch out, and every 2 weeks you switch it out, and so you wear these braces for a year. So in my mind, I thought, well, if every 2 weeks, what if I just flipped them out every week and got it done in 6 months? And that's just the way my mind works. And so it was extremely painful, but that's the way it works. I hate guided tours on vacations. I'm on vacation. I don't want you to tell me what to do, but my wife, she loves guided tours. She wants to know every single part of the city and the facility and just everything. I'm just going, I don't care. I'll figure it out myself. We went to Charleston last year. Never been there before. Charleston is an incredible, incredible place, except when you have 4 kids. And it's brutal. And it's not just so much for you, but it's for everybody else. As we went last year, and at that time our kids were 8, 6, 4, and 1. And so we went to Charleston, and we just apologized every place we went. We're so sorry. But one morning we wake up, Brianna wants to go on these horse-drawn carriage tour rides. You know what I'm talking about? Where you get in this, it's like an hour and a half, and the guy's up there, and he tells you all the things of the city going on. I love my wife. I didn't really want to do that, but she convinced, she goes, we got to do this, okay. So we get on this little horse-drawn carriage. It's us and 8 or 10 other people, big carriage, and we're going. We're not 5 minutes into this ride. And Micah, who's 1 at the time, begins to scream. And I don't mean like a cute scream. We all see cute. This is like unbelievable. He won't stop. We can't bounce him. I mean, he just scream. People on the back, they're irritated. The guy giving the tour, he's trying to talk over it. And I go to time out. And he pauses. I go, hey, dude, we've got to get off the carriage. And he goes, well, sir, policy won't allow anybody to get off the carriage. Once you're on, you've got to continue. I just look at him. I was like, dude, if we stay on here, it's going to go bad for you and everybody else on here. And everybody else looked on me, and I felt like Jonah getting thrown overboard. Just throw this guy and the kids. So we jumped off. They went on the rest of the hour and a half tour, but I had a blast. Because Mike and I, we walked around. I wanted to see the city for myself, and I looked at the places, and But there's processes in life. There's a process in order to wind up finishing with a great marriage or a great business or having your character or integrity to finish well. It's not an overnight thing. It's not just an overnight success if I did this one thing and it worked out great. It's going, this is where I want to wind up. This is the path that God has revealed to me. I know where I want to go, but this is what I need to do today. And this is the decision I need to make tomorrow. And these are the things I need to do right the following day. And these are what I need to say yes to and no to. It is a path. And so the simple question is, okay, you know where you want to go. And the second question is, what steps do you need to take in order to get there? It's trusting somebody. It's forgiving somebody. It's apologizing. It's discipline. It's those things that aren't pretty. It's those things that probably won't make you famous or rich, but it is those things that when you do them right, day in and day out, faithfully, all of a sudden you're that person, 30, 40, 50 years that you wake up and you're going, I finished well. And everybody else is looking at you going, how in the world did you get there? And you're going, it wasn't overnight. It was day by day by day. Look at the very last verse. Look at verse 27. So once you know where you want to go, and now you know the steps in order to get there, there's something extremely important to guard against. Look at verse 27. He says, don't get sidetracked. Keep your feet from following evil. Don't get sidetracked. Keep your feet from following evil. These are the guards, and it's guarding against what I would call the shiny objects of life. These are the things that distract. This is the more money than you can imagine, the greatest job title you've ever thought about. It's the latest toy that your neighbors have bought. It's the latest house that your friends moved into. It's that vacation. It's those things that in and of themselves may not necessarily be wrong, but they are the shiny objects that take you from your path. And a great illustration of this, just go Google cats chasing laser pointers. Okay, you're going to see these great YouTube videos, and these little cats, and someone has a laser pointer, and the cat just goes after it. And I thought about that and go, that's kind of like us, right? All of a sudden, we know where we want to go, right? We know the steps to get there, and all of a sudden, ooh, money. Ooh, job title. Ooh, this. Ooh, that. And all of a sudden, we start chasing after all this. And next thing we know, we wake up, we're completely on a different path than when we started. And it's not necessarily because we didn't know where we were going. We knew where we wanted to go. We knew the steps in order to get there, but man, there were some really shiny objects that distracted us. And so the question, when you begin to look at your life and whatever path you're talking about, the last question is this: what shiny objects need to be avoided? What shiny objects need to be avoided? And here's the truth. What's shiny for you may not necessarily be shiny for me, but we all have shiny objects. We all have those things, and Satan knows them backwards and forwards of what distracts us from the path that God has us on, from the steps that we know that we should do. There are these things that distract us over here, that take our attention away from this, that someone's convincing us that this is the right way, and all of a sudden, all these shiny objects around us, and we're chasing after it like the cat chases after the laser pointer, and all of a sudden we wake up going, where are we? In order to wind up 30, 40, 50 years from now on that right path, you go, here's where I'm going, these are the steps, and Lord, I'm going to guard against the shiny objects in my life. I'm going to put up the appropriate boundaries, and these guardrails aren't meant to restrict, but they're meant to protect and guide me along the right path. But the thing about shiny objects is all of a sudden the shiny objects, when we see them enough, when we hear about them enough, tend to be normalized. We tend to chase after them because, well, somebody said it was okay enough times. They're going, yeah, that sounds about right. Or you watch it enough on TV or social media, or you hear somebody famous saying, you're going, yeah, that sounds about right. And so all of a sudden you sell out the path that you're on. You sell out the path that you're walking down in order to chase this shiny object. And all of a sudden you spend the next 6 months, year, 18 months chasing, and all of a sudden the shiny object is not near as shiny anymore. And all of a sudden there's a trail of collateral damage. What Solomon says, listen, son, daughter, you guard your heart because that's what determines the course of your life. You guard your focus and where you're going. You guard the steps in the process you're going to get there, and you guard against the shiny objects, the things that distract you to take you toward evil. But you hear it enough, people convince you enough, and all of a sudden you're going, well, maybe this is the right way. You guard against those things. This past week, we were at Home Depot as a family. And for Christmas and birthdays, kind of the go-to gift for my friends and family and me are Home Depot gift cards. It's easy. They know I like that. And so I've got a stack of Home Depot gift cards. I keep in my nightstand and usually keep one or two in my wallet. And we happened to be at Home Depot. We bought a few little odds and ends items, and we went to check out. We checked out there. I'm paintbrushing some things. And I gave her the Home Depot gift card, and she swipes it. She goes, great. And she goes, your total balance on your gift card is $1,800.43. I was like, so many thoughts. First of all, I thought, my friends aren't near that nice. I promise you they don't like me that much. And I just go, no, ma'am, it's not. And she goes, no, sir, it is $1,800.43. I go, no, ma'am, it's not $1,800 left in this gift card. She goes, yes, sir, it is $1,800. I go, ma'am, it's not. Like, you don't know my friends and family. You just don't. You cannot. She goes, sir, there is $1,843 left on this gift card. And for a split second, I go, well, maybe there is. Maybe instead of $20, they put $2,000 on there. I don't know. And then I go, no. And she goes, sir, there is. And so we bag things up, and she prints out the receipt, and she goes, no, I'm sorry. There's $37.83 left in your card. And the 1,800 was how much could be loaded on that car. Like could go up to. I know, it'd be like a miracle of God. You're going, oh my goodness, it's loaves and fishes. He did it again. So. There's that moment, like literally for a split second, I thought, maybe there is $1,800 on this gift card. And for a split second, you're going, maybe this is okay to pursue. Maybe it is okay. I mean, it's a business trip and nobody's there. It's not that big a deal. Yeah, it's an expense report and it's kind of a personal thing, but they don't really check these things. I'm away at college and mom and dad, what they don't know, it's not going to hurt them. It's not that big of a deal. I know I promised my kids I would be at this game or this recital or this thing, but it's a work thing and I've got to be there, and I know I've missed so many, but it's not that big of a deal. And all of a sudden, the things that once become shiny objects become normalized in our life because we hear it over and over again. We go, maybe it's okay. Guard your heart. Guard your marriage. Guard your finances. Guard your business, your character, your integrity. There's a path that God reveals for each and every one of us and goes, this is the path for your life. It's one thing to start, but it's another thing to finish. And where do you want to end up 30, 40, 50 years from now? Taking your last breath, what path do you want to have stayed on that you started? What are the steps that you need to do? Those things that probably aren't fun, that take a lot of discipline, but they're so important day by day by day. Doing the right things, doing them at the right time, and doing them all the time. And then what are the shiny objects that you need to guard against, that need to be avoided? And your shiny object is shiny to you. My shiny object is shiny to me, but it's the guards in place that protect our heart, because it's what drives and directs the course of our life. And so let me tell you what my prayer has been for my life and for your life and those of you watching online. My prayer this week, just walking through this text, my prayer for my life and for your life and all of you watching online is that all of us, when we come to the end of our lives, could say the exact same thing that the Apostle Paul told his young protege, Timothy. He says, I fought the good fight. I finished the race, and I've remained faithful, and the crown of righteousness awaits me. I fought the good fight, and I finished the race, and I have remained faithful. And some of you here in this room, you have not started on the right path, but you most certainly can finish on the right path. The Apostle Paul certainly did not start down the right path in his life. but he certainly made up for lost time, and he finished well. Fought the good fight. I finished the race, and I have remained faithful. And no, I may not be rich, and no, I may not be famous, and no, I may not be on the cover of any magazine, but I've loved my wife and my husband till death do we part. And I've raised godly kids. And I've been a man or a woman of character and integrity in my business and my workplace. I've ministered to my neighborhood and in my community. I've volunteered in places that God has placed on my heart. And no, I probably won't be on any late night talk shows. And no, I probably won't write any books. But I fought the good fight, and I finished the race, and I have remained faithful, and the greatest prize awaits me, the crown of righteousness. Let me pray for us. Father, my prayer for every person in this room, including myself, the people in these seats, God, people watching online, is that we would be able to say that we would be those men and women of faith that come to the end of our lives and say, we fought the good fight, we finished the race, and we remain faithful to the path that is right before us. Now, with every head bowed and every eye closed, I don't know what your story of faith is, but I'm guessing there are many of you here in this room that you did not start out on the right path. In fact, you may not be on the right path today, but you look at your life around you, and the truth is, if you are still breathing, there is still time to finish well. And the very first step in all of this is to make Jesus the center of your heart. The heart determines the course of your life. In order to finish well, the very first step is to make Jesus the center of your life, the center of your heart. And if you've never, ever done that, you can do that right here, right now, just by saying something like this. Just say, Lord Jesus, today I'm asking you to come into my heart, be the center of my life, and the king over all. Today I trust you for the first time. Jesus, show me which path to take, and I'll follow you for the rest of my life. Now, there may be some of you in this room, you know you're saved, you know Jesus at the center of your heart, but you've allowed the shiny objects in life to distract you. Oh man, they look good at first. They sounded good at first. They felt good at first. It was fun at first, but all of a sudden, you've got a wake of collateral damage in your past. And maybe today you just say, Jesus, I've gotten distracted by the shiny objects, and today I put the guardrails in place. I bring the right friends around me to speak into me. God, I begin to dive into your word today. God, I begin to guard my heart and my mind, the things that go on in my life and the words that I say. God, today, Lord, please remove the shiny objects that distract me, that make my feet run to evil. God, let my feet walk on the path that you've laid out for me. Maybe there's marriages in here that have been rocky and they're shiny objects, and today you say, you know what? We begin over. We start over. We want to be that couple that says, till death do us part, and we're more mad in love on that day than the day when we first met. Maybe there's families in here that are rocky. Maybe you've done some questionable things in your business with your character, your integrity, and saying, today, Jesus, it's a fresh start. I'm getting back on the right path, and I'm going to do the daily things the right way. Father, I pray for every person in this room, whatever path that you have them on, Lord, my prayer is that they finish well. They fight the good fight, they finish the race, and they remain faithful. And the greatest prize awaits all of us that call upon you as Lord. It is the crown of righteousness awaiting us in heaven. Jesus, I love you. I thank you for everybody here today. We ask these things in your precious and holy name. Amen.